Welcome, I should say, bienvenue, fight fans, DAZN Mixed Martial Arts. Sean O'Connell, Dan Hardy. Why am I speaking French? Because PFL Europe, Paris, semifinals, our first playoff semifinal in PFL Europe. An absolutely incredible night at the Zenith Arena. I'm still buzzing. I mean, it's been days. I am still buzzing from Cedric Doumbe and his walkout and his performance and the Lazy King and the reception and the way that fans hung around after the fights just to get pictures and autographs and unbelievable atmosphere, unbelievable night of fights, Dan Hardy.
It was a special night. Yeah. I mean, the fans were waiting around outside the back of the arena for just a glimpse of somebody. It was like no event I've ever been to, certainly not a PFL event. I mean, you know, Ariel mentioned it on his show, and I think he nailed it. It was like McGregor in Dublin, you know, back in the Brandao fight. There was just something special about the, you know, the build up, the walkout. I mean, the whole of fight week. You know, we were doing face-offs on Wednesday night, and you know, Cedric was sitting in the back of the van with the door open, screaming Jordan's name. Like, he really played the whole week very well. And, you know, to finish it with a 9-second knockout like that, it's, I mean, I don't know how you could write a better script if you Cedric Doumbe.
It was as perfect a performance as you're going to get, right? The only thing that it left me wanting more. 9 seconds is impressive, but give me milk it a little bit, Cedric. I mean, come on, give me some back and forth first, you know? Take me out to dinner. But it was absolutely just phenomenal. I knew Cedric Doumbe was a star, right? I knew that. Intellectually, I knew it. But I did not have an adequate understanding of the relationship he has with the French fans, of the way that he has somehow melded the sort of theatrics of a WWE type atmosphere with legitimate competition, right? I mean, with high-level mixed martial arts now, and previously he did this with kickboxing. You're not supposed to get such a seamless marriage of those two things, right? He's in the cage interacting with his fans, calling out, he's got Jordan, and then the entire building has their response screaming on cue while he's seconds away from Mark Goddard going, "Are you ready to fight? Are you ready to fight? Let's go." I mean, nobody does it like that. Even Conor McGregor, since you brought him up, even Conor McGregor didn't have that in his arsenal, where he said he spoke to his fans and they spoke back while he was ready to compete. It's just really something that blew me away. I mean, it made me happy to be there. It made me jealous that I hadn't thought of this before. Like, it was just, the guy's an absolute superstar. And then I'm doing a post-fight interview with him, and he's seamlessly transitioning between two languages. And it's just, man, sky's the limit.
Yeah, but absolutely. I mean, you know, 5-0. He's just he's arrived in MMA as you know, about as close to a finished product as you could get. I mean, a little bit like Alex Pereira in a way. Of course, you know, he had some you know, some developing to do losing his first fight, but we just you know, we just don't know what the limit is for Cedric. I mean, you've got to imagine that his takedown defense and his ground game is growing very, very fast, because he's got the confidence to just you know, maybe set his striking skills to one side a little bit. You know what I mean? He could take his foot off the gas in that development and just stay sharp there and really dedicate himself to takedown defense, because, you know, that's most likely what everybody he fights is going to try and do to him, especially after a knockout like that. I mean, you know, what was it? He blocked a kick, he returned a low kick, and then he threw a left hook which knocked his opponent out. And as he was falling, he landed a right hand. Like, it was a seamless performance. And I mean, it's completely taken over my social media. I open like Instagram, and it's just different replays of Cedric and like Mbappe like in the front row responding, and, you know, loads of different angles and you know, tweets about it. It's crazy.
The Mbappe thing is getting some traction, as it should, and I saw Luke Thomas talk about this, and, you know, it's not often that you get the traditional sport superstar who's active in the career to pay attention to our sport, right? There's so much, it's so demanding to be an NBA basketball player, it's so demanding to be a star quarterback in the NFL, it's so demanding to be one of these elite level European footballers. And so most of the time you get them after they retire. They're still incredibly famous. They're still obviously, legends and icons, and can get their front row tickets because they never have to buy a drink or a dinner for the rest of their lives. But Kylian Mbappe had a match to play on the day of the fight, an away game. Got on the private jet, flew back, made it in time for Cedric Doumbe's fight. And he is as famous as any other athlete on planet Earth, right? I mean, there's a very elite few that even belong in that category. And almost none of them are American sports stars, by the way. Like, the entire world knows who LeBron James is, but I don't know if the entire world knows who Giannis Antetokounmpo is, the Greek freak, you know what I mean? Like, NBA All-Stars don't have that level of recognition. Patrick Mahomes is the biggest star in NFL football. I don't think the whole globe knows who he is. Everybody on planet Earth knows Kylian Mbappe. And he was there watching a PFL Europe fight. It was, I mean, I don't get starstruck, Dan Hardy, but in that case, a little bit. Because it's like, I mean, that man is an icon, and he's an active icon. It just doesn't happen in the sport of mixed martial arts. So PFL Paris delivered on so many different fronts. And I think we have to credit Cedric Doumbe for bringing all that attention.
Yeah, I mean, the impact that he had on the card, on the ticket sales as well. I mean, the card wasn't complete when the event was sold out. We were scrambling to try and find more space in the arena to fit more people in. It was it was a phenomenon that, I mean, I'm very early in this career as a part of the PFL, but it was like nothing I'd ever witnessed before. Like, as soon as we signed him, before he was even announced to fight, we sold a bunch of tickets for Paris. And then, after the event was sold out, then we added the Lazy King as well, who is another person who I think, in 2024, especially when he arrives on that global roster for regular season, he is going to be a superstar as well.
I mean, look, co-main event, Abdul Abdurrahimov, the Lazy King, against Brad Wheeler, and the atmosphere when he was walking out, not so different than when Cedric Doumbe was walking out. I mean, he doesn't have the theatrics of, like, speaking to his fans and them speaking back, but he definitely plays to the crowd. And when we left the arena, there was a mob of fans, literally a mob of fans, trying to stop the bus that he was on so they could get pictures with him. That's something that's supposed to happen to rock stars, not mixed martial artists. So that was something. My only demand for Cedric Doumbe and the Lazy King moving forward is that they're not allowed to be on the same card anymore. We have to separate them out, because it'll be a sold-out show for the Lazy King. It'll be a sold-out show for Cedric Doumbe. So we need to be booking bigger arenas when those guys are involved. I was incredibly impressed with the French fans. It's not something that as an American you think of, and maybe this is ignorance on my part. You don't think of the French being like hardcore, insane sports fans, and that's exactly what they were. I mean, I went to the rugby early in the week, and the French fans were great there. And then obviously on fight night, they were unbelievable. Like, unlike any crowd I've ever seen or been a part of in my mixed martial arts career as a broadcaster or as a fighter. I was blown away, unbelievably impressed. And then, the pastries to celebrate afterward made it just icing on the cake, literally, in that case.
Literally the icing on the cake. Yeah, I mean, it was, the thing is, because MMA is so young in its in its position in France. I mean, it was illegal for so long. The majority of the French fighters, I remember them fighting across the UK on different shows, and they always had to travel. But there was, there's always been a love of martial arts in France. That they love judo, they love Muay Thai. It's one of the best places to go and train Muay Thai. It made sense for MMA to find a real home in France, and I think that's what it is. We've had some really good events recently. The UFC and Glory did really good events, but like when we arrived at that arena, knowing that, well, I mean, we had the playoff fights as well. We had we had some really, really good playoff fights we've not even discussed yet. But just the main and co-main event, knowing that as the fights moved through, people were anticipating Cedric Doumbe's walkout is going to be something special. They were there from the first fight. It was like a party atmosphere. We had great music. We had a great DJ. The atmosphere was bouncing. The arena was really cool as well. I think PFL Europe's going to be in France quite a bit in the coming years, and I'm very much hoping to see Cedric Doumbe and the Lazy King on those cards.
But never mind PFL Europe being in France. I'm talking about PFL Global needs to be taking shows to France because the fans. I mean, you take a risk anytime you go to a new market, and the fans rewarded that risk with incredible energy, great attendance, a sold-out show, and support for especially the local fighters that was just off the charts. So the conversation coming out of Cedric Doumbe's kind of like real arrival on the global mixed martial arts scene is he wants to be part of the $1 million season, right? But he also wants to have some big fights potentially before then. And he was calling out names like Nate Diaz, who of course the PFL is trying to get to fight mixed martial arts against Jake Paul. He's calling out Anthony Pettis, and Pettis snatched that thing up. I mean, before Cedric hit send on the tweet, Anthony Pettis was typing a challenge into Google Translate so he could tweet it out in French to Cedric Doumbe. And the wild thing about that fight, I certainly want to see it, but the wild thing about that fight is Cedric Doumbe is the A side. You know what I mean? He's the main draw, and he's 5 fights into his mixed martial arts career. No disrespect, obviously, to Anthony Pettis, who's a legend, a former champion in the UFC, like one of the original, incredible, exciting fighters that were must-watch TV. But right now, because of the moment we're in, Cedric Doumbe is the A side of that fight.
That's wild, crazy to think about. But I mean, it shows you that Pettis recognizes, not only his technical abilities, but his star potential. But they're the kind of fights that are going to get Pettis back into the gym training hard. You know what I mean? Because after the career that he's had, like, you've got to have the right opponent to motivate you. And someone like Cedric Doumbe, the challenge that would present a striker like Anthony Pettis. And I mean, you know what Cedric's like. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to catch Pettis with the Showtime kick just to kind of rub salt into the wound. He's that kind of guy, right? You know what I mean? If he calls himself the best, he's got to use your special move against you. That should be part of the rules, I think.
I mean, an unbelievable night in Paris, and just re-energized my hopes for the PFL regional leagues, PFL Europe, PFL Middle East, North Africa, PFL Africa, PFL Asia, PFL South America. If we could catch even a little fraction of the energy and the hype and the entertainment value that was created in Paris this past weekend for all of those regional leagues, PFL's headed to the stars, my friend.